Alright. What's up, Raptors Brothers and Sisters? Sid checking in. And everybody, the Raptors West Coast trip has officially started with our first stop in the Denver Nuggets territory. And even though this matchup against the Denver Nuggets didn't really go our way and the result wasn't one that we expected, surprisingly enough, I'm not really disappointed in this game because yes, the refs were on the Denver Nuggets side, especially at the end of this game. Yes, the Denver Nuggets were missing some indie players. Yes, Nikola Jokic had another monsterful performance against us. And yes, RJ Barrett missed that game winner shot, which by the way, the ball bounced in and out. So you can't really blame him on that. But despite all this, I'm still not mad. Why? Because throughout the whole game today, the Raptors were taking high quality shots and no one really gave up on any possession. And what's more is we did this against a more formidable team like the Denver Nuggets, who has years and years and years of playoff experience in comparison to a young Raptors team like ourselves. So to be able to fight this hard against them and play against them in their home court, and ultimately the game came down to a ball just going in and out, that alone is just amazing to me. And to top it all off, this is with a depleted roster. Imagine what will happen when we have a full squad back, being with Scotty, Emmanuel Quickly, Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown even, and the whole other guys. Imagine what kind of tear we could have been on. And it just makes us so hopeful as Raptors fans for the future because the sky's the limit. So with that out of the way, since unfortunately we lost, let's break down everything that the Raptors did well and needs to improve on, as well as all the other stuff, starting now. Now, before I talk about the Toronto Raptors, more specifically the details regarding what they did in this game, firstly, kudos to the Denver Nuggets, because even with two major pieces out of the board, being Jamal Murray going down because of a concussion from a prior game, as well as Aaron Gordon going down today with some kind of leg injury, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets really stepped up their game today. And as usual, even when they're down, they made sure that the deficit was within a 10-point margin, so that as the game continued to go on and it came down to crunch time, their final push was just enough to help them grab the win. Of course, the refs also benefited them because they were in the home court, but that is to be expected because it's their home court anyway. So kudos to them for taking every opportunity to not only maintain the deficit and keep it in a respectable range, and also when the time was right, they had the energy as a collective to push through and ultimately grab the win by the skin of their teeth. So kudos to them for that. Now, before I talk about the Raptors' improvements from this game, let's talk about the positives, which are two specific people from this game. Number one is Grady Dick, and number two is Jakob Poeltl. Firstly, for Grady Dick, man, what can I say about this guy? He was everywhere this game. I mean, it didn't really matter what the defense did, especially in the first to third quarters. This guy was, one, he's a really good three-point specialist, so that was already automatic going into the season. But more importantly, as the games continued to go on this season, he had more slashing opportunities, and not only was he slashing hard, but he was also mixing it up with acrobatic layups, which is really impressive because I guess that is also an ability that he had from his years in Kansas, which is starting to transition into the NBA. And it's great to see him do that at all fronts. Now, on the flip side though, in that fourth quarter, he seemed to really put more pressure on himself, and because of that, he made some costly turnovers and things of that nature, which really impacted the Raptors to close out these games. But I'm not really putting too much pressure on him because one, the team is young, and two, it's early in the season, so we have so much more time to improve and learn from our mistakes. And I believe that especially with Grady Dick, he'll look at film and he'll look at everything that he's done up to this point and make the adjustments as the games go on. So I'm completely fine with what he's doing, and I look forward to seeing how he continues to improve going forward. Now, the second person that I would like to talk about is Jakob Poeltl. And even though he fouled out in this game, this guy, not only this game, but every single game up to this point, he has been a defensive presence. And I can't thank him enough for that. Because without his contribution, in fact, without him having a good performance, the Raptors games could have went a very different direction. And when I mean a different direction, I mean in not a very good direction either. I always preach this to everybody that I'm talking to, that in a basketball team, we need to have a person who likes to do the blue collar work. These are the people that don't really go for stats. They're just getting all physical. They're using the muscle. They're just going around the court, just cleaning up everybody's mess. And we needed somebody like that, or more people like that, especially from last year and going into this year. So I'm really glad that we have a person like Jakob Poeltl dedicated to that craft. And as the games continue to go on this season, you're seeing that he's not only polishing those skills, but he's adding new things to it. Like, he's attacking more to the glass. He's pump faking more, which granted he was injured last year and we didn't get to see that, but throughout last year he just did floaters or anything like that. This time he's actually pump faking and trying to get the centers to jump up, which is something that I really like, and I hope that it continues to improve, because that really could help us once the team gets healthy, because it will help the Raptors not only create more shot opportunities, but more players can cut back door when he does this, and he can easily get more dimes this way as well. So kudos to both him, Jakob Poeltl, as well as Grady Dick for the contributions that they made in this game, and hopefully they continue to do this great work going forward. Now, we gotta talk about the $1 million question, which is, what are the improvements for the Raptors coming out of this game? And right away, we gotta start off with the elephant in the room, which is our lack of ability to close out games. Now, I know that the team is young, but this is definitely a important thing that we gotta fix right away, and it starts now. Because if you notice, every game that we've played up to now, we had a chance to win. Whether that be we are down going into the fourth, or we're having a comfortable lead going into the fourth. In the games that we are down going into the fourth, we made it into a game so that we had a chance to win, but then somehow we just blow it and the other team was able to come away with the win. And in the games that we had a comfortable lead going into the fourth, what happened? We blew it in the fourth. Whether that be of certain circumstances such as turnovers, injuries, things of that nature. But whatever it is, we blew it. And ultimately, that is what the opponents were looking for, as I believe, especially after the game we had today against the Denver Nuggets, I believe that our opponents are going to be thinking or going to be discussing in their timeouts throughout the game that, hey, the Raptors at some point are going to drop their guard and they're just going to not hand us the win, but they're going to fumble the ball, so to speak. So all we need to do is wait for that opportunity and strike hard when that opportunity comes. And I believe that is what the Denver Nuggets was aiming for in this game, because right when the Raptors started making those turnovers late into the fourth quarter, around the 5-minute mark, that is specifically the time when the Denver Nuggets used all of their last bit of energy to somehow pull away with this game, whether that be from the corner threes, whether that be driving to the paint and getting fouls, and everything else in between. So you can really see that they've waited for that opportunity to strike, and when it did, they just attacked full force. So going forward for the Raptors, I believe that we need to fix how we're closing out games, because for one thing, we cannot give that type of leverage to the opponent, but two, in basketball we always have to think about what the opponent is thinking as well. And since we pretty much know what they're thinking after this game, it should be relatively easy to find a countermeasure for this. And finally, if we close out games, I believe that this will just help all of our players relieve some of their stress, especially in the late stages of the fourth quarter, and ultimately help them make the most accurate play in every single possession. So with this, the turnovers and everything else negative for the Raptors will be greatly diminished. So hopefully the Raptors coaches, the Raptors assistant coaches, and everybody else on the Raptors development team find some strategy to fix this, because it's becoming apparent that this is a strategy that the opponents are going to try to throw at us, and we need to find a counter to this ASAP. So hopefully this is fixed on in the practices going forward, and we'll see what the Raptors do to change this in the game against Sacramento on Wednesday. The second improvement that I would like to see the Raptors make coming out of this game is the Raptors coaches need to do a better job of calling timeouts in game, especially in the later stages of this game, being the late fourth quarters. This is because looking at the games up till now, I feel that if the calls or the timeouts were better managed, we could have had so many possessions where we could have drawn up a really good play and ultimately get a better shot, and the result would have been different. For example, in today's game against the Denver Nuggets, right? In the 3-minute mark of the fourth quarter, RJ Barrett took a 3 and it missed, but Jonathan Mobile came up with a rebound. And right when he came down with the rebound, he got double teamed by 2 Denver Nuggets players. And he had no way of passing it, or he didn't know who to pass it to. Now, keep in mind that at this point, the Raptors had 2 timeouts, right? And you think that with 2 timeouts, they'll call a timeout to not only reset the play, but also draw a new possession to get a better shot. But unfortunately, that is not what happened, because what they did was they just melted the shot clock to the point where as the shot clock was drawing to the 5-second mark, it forced Jonathan Mobile to just pass it to Davion Mitchell, who just heaved the shot. And unfortunately, it went airball and the shot clock violation just went off, and this just added to Denver Nuggets momentum, because they came back and got the foul and won, and all the momentum was on their side. Not to mention the refs also. So yeah, I'm saying this all to say that I believe that that specific possession could have really been a game changer, especially when we know that up to this point the Raptors have been working hard and doing everything in their power to win. So to have the coaches really mess up a timeout like that, or not even call a timeout during that play, it really speaks volumes to the amount of work they need to work on their end to make sure that they call the timeout at the right time possible and ultimately find the best way for the Raptors to win on their end. Because the last thing we want is for the Raptors players to do everything in their power to win, but the fault is going to be on the coaches, which is never a good look, because when things go left for an organization, unfortunately the coaches get fired first. And if this continues for the Raptors, things are not going to look good for the coaches, and I really don't want that as well. I want the coaches to continue to get stronger too, and I hope this is something that the Raptors coaches fixes going into the future games of this road trip, as well as the future games this season and the games to come in the Raptors future as well. The final improvement that I would like the Raptors to make coming out of this game is, once again, we need to limit the amount of turnovers that we have, especially in the fourth quarter, because even though the turnovers were limited throughout quarters 1 to 3, as we got to the crunch time and the game became more tight, we saw it especially in this game where our star players, or the players that really made an impact on this team, being RJ Barrett and Grady Dick, they somehow felt like they needed to carry a bit more load of the team to get the win, especially with Jakob Poeltl going down because of foul trouble and getting fouled out. At that point, RJ Barrett and Grady Dick, they took a little bit more responsibility on themselves, and I feel like they did a bit too much, and because of this, they gave up costly turnovers which the Denver Nuggets were able to capitalize on. So going forward, I believe that if we really keep our composure, especially in the fourth quarter, and treat every possession with extreme carefulness and know exactly what we're doing and where everyone's going to be at all times, I think it'll really help us not only find the best opportunity, but we wouldn't really need to overwork or over-pressurize any of our players to make any rash decisions which could come and really hit us and give us that gut punch feeling when it's all said and done, like it happened tonight. So hopefully this is something that the Raptors players continue to work on, continue to watch film on, and continue to make adjustments going into the future games this season, as well as all the future games to come in the Raptors' journey to the next championship. So yeah, overall this game, like I said before, it definitely was a gut punch, but at the same time I'm not disappointed at all because there were a lot of good stuff to take away from this game, and it was a very good learning experience for the Raptors, because it's times like this where the Raptors can really hone into their skills, and as they continue to learn all these different skills and different things from the losses that we have so far, especially the close losses like today, when we have a more unified team and everything starts clicking, I believe that the chances of making these mistakes are going to be very limited, and we're going to have much more success going into the future. So hopefully I'm right about that, and it's something that the Raptors coaches, assistant coaches, and everybody else in that organization continues to preach to the players, because the future is bright for this team, no doubt about that. But the question is, how much time will they need to really understand that and lock into what needs to be done to make it a reality? So let's see what they do going into the future games of the season, especially their game against their next matchup against the Sacramento Kings on Wednesday, as well as all their future games this season and in the games to come. So yeah, with that being said, if you like this type of video, you know what to do. Give me one of these, smash the subscribe button and hit that bell, and until next time, Siv signing out.